Welcome everybody to Scrapbook Live. This is the August 17th edition, and we are putting together the What a Zoo layout. I'm going to be using something completely different for my the papers and everything like that, but you have those instructions. Hopefully you were able to find them on the blog, my blog. There's a link in the comment of this Facebook Live, or if you're watching this later on YouTube, it'll be in the description of the video. So, as I mentioned, the project, let me show a quick picture of it for you guys. Here's the blog project. It's really cute with that What a Zoo 2 collection. I love that collection, but I thought this layout was really neat. I love those triangles in there, and I thought, let's just go ahead and put this together. I think it would be a lot of fun tackling those triangles. It's a lot of repetitive cutting, but it's not too bad, and I think it's well worth it. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll switch over here to my table, and I've got my directions and I've got some photos, and I'm pretty much sticking to the layout itself. Is going to be fairly true to what they've got going on here. The one thing I am doing a little bit different is I'm not using the What a Zoo collection. I've got a mismatch of papers that I'm using here, largely because I have these really cute photos of Cody. He had really long hair as a toddler. We didn't actually get his haircut till he was almost 3. And I took him out for a photo shoot just before we got his haircut to kind of capture all of those fun golden curls. And he wanted to play with my camera. So these are photos, and I'm sitting, you can see this, what I'm holding on to. I'm like, please do not drop my camera, kid. I was about ready just to, die if that happened. So I have these photos. I love these photos. And what I wanted to do is really pick up on the colors in the photo. So you can see he's playing inside some rusty train thing at one of the parks around here. So we've got that color. There's some orange. There's a little bit of blue in his jeans. There's a light orange and a dark orange in his shirt. So what I went through is I picked out some papers. You should have seen me last night. It was really ridiculous picking out these papers. But I have, I'm going with a lighter background. I like the light background here in the layout sample. So I'm going with a lighter background. This is from the Lime Tart Vivid Melodies papers. Has this nice, just a kind of a geometric pattern on there. Very, I liked it. It's light, but still has some pattern to it. And then I went through and was looking for papers that would match these photos. So what I've ended up with, I liked this orange, kind of a dark orange color it's a pumpkin orange from the Butterscotch paper pack of the Vivid Melodies. In that same Butterscotch paper pack, there is this yellow. It's kind of a golden yellow. So I decided that would work really well. I liked that. It was a warm yellow without being too bright. Then I needed a green. And so I looked through the Lime Tart paper pack that was the same, that the background paper came through. And I just wasn't finding what I wanted. That sometimes happens, right? The packs, it's not going to have everything just be perfect. So I went ahead and found this green is actually from the Woodland Whimsy paper pack. So it would have been, I think, the Woodland Whimsy Boy, if you have the boy versus the girl pack, or a couple years ago, they came out with the Woodland Whimsy Refreshed pack that was part of a promo. If you have that pack, you would have this kind of a minty green. It's very tonal, but in all reality, there is a piece that is in that Lime Tart pack that would have worked well for me. This is just me being a little picky. And then I wanted a blue. So I pulled this blue out of the Rainbow Rush pack. I think it's the Rainbow Rush. I can't remember whether it's the soft or it's not the bold. I don't know. There was like 3 different packs, and I can't remember which one for sure this is out of. But I liked this blue. I initially was going to be using this side, but when I started messing around with it, I'm going to be using kind of a darker edge on the more ombre water paint splat type paint. And then I will be matting my photos in this same color from the Woodland Whimsy paper. And I've already gone ahead. I have pre-cropped my photos. I am very much sticking to the space here that they use, the different sizes. But when you're doing yours, we're basically building a background. So if you can imagine taking away all these, the 4 photos they have here, and we're going to have that triangle background, then there is kind of a square offset to the side. You can arrange your photos on there however you want. It just happened to be that I had photos that worked well to go into this arrangement. It does make a nice overall pinwheel effect if you have those 2 horizontal photos and then the 2 verticals. So we will go ahead and get started. This is all about, I have full sheets here. You can use scraps. If you look at the directions, when you're making these triangles, you just need 1-inch strips. So you might be able to go through your scrap pile and pick out different scraps of things. And they don't even have to be 12 inches long. They can just be, you know, maybe you're going to use 5 or 6 different patterns of paper. I do give you an alternative. If you do not have strips of paper, but you have other scraps, you can start with a 1.5-inch square. So you would have a square cut out, and then you cut that square on the diagonal. That is one method to do this if you do not want to use the trimmer with the 45-degree angle. One thing I want to talk about before we dive too far into this is the number of paper patterns that you pick. So they used 3 different papers here. You can see in this handout. They use kind of the brown, the mustard, and the zebra stripe. When they do when you do 3 patterns or 3 different papers here, you will alternate. It makes a nice alternating pattern, meaning that, you know, you can see here it goes from yellow to zebra to brown, and then yellow's on the inside, zebras on the outside, browns on the inside. So you can see how that just gives you that nice balance all the way around. I have 4 colors. That means my pattern's not going to quite alternate the way theirs does. If you use an odd number, you will have that ability to have your colors some be on the outside edge, some be on the inside edge. If you use even numbers of paper, so 2, 4, 6, 8, your pattern is not going to be varied like that. You would have to manually make adjustments. So maybe you're not going to follow a pattern. Maybe it'll be more random. Or you'll see as I put mine together, I kind of found a way around that based on how I set this up. I like how it overall looked. So I'm good with the 4, but that's something to keep in mind, whether you've selected 3 patterns or if you're going to incorporate an even number of patterns, 4, 6, 8, however you're doing it. Maybe you are literally going to just be pulling scraps from all over the place, and every single one of these triangles will be a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing, like I mentioned, I am working with my background paper here. I've got just a piece of the lime tart paper. The opposite side is more of a minty with a green leaf pattern on it. I'm using the back side, which is white with this mint green grid pattern to it. And the one thing that they first tell us to do is they want us to go ahead and cut out a 10 5/8 inch square out of a pattern paper that we would put here on. It is the green background that they have here. Now, the one thing about doing that, I'm not. I wanted to stick with my very light, airy background, so I'm not going to put a piece of paper here. The one thing that's nice if you were to cut and put that 10 5/8 inch paper here, is that's going to help you establish where your triangle borders are. So that's why they want you to put that piece in first. That is when you put that on there, if you cut that 10 5/8 inch piece, you're going to go ahead and put it in place. You'll want to make sure that it's nice and even so that when you put that 10 5/8 inch piece on there, it's going to come to about, 1.5 inches. I measured this earlier, and now you're going to start at about 1/8 of an inch away. It's not going to be all the way to the edge. You can see on the sketch that they do have that border all the way around it, and that's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So when you put that on, make sure you put it on nice and straight, because that's going to help you line up your top and side borders with those triangles. So I'm not doing that. So hopefully while I've been talking here, maybe if you're following along or cutting along with us, you got that 10 5/8 inch piece cut. You've got it set on there. You don't have to do it. I'm not using it. You don't have to use it. It just worked out well for their particular design, but maybe your papers are like mine and don't need that. All right, so now it's time to start making those triangles. So we're going to start, and I'm going to pick the mint green color, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my trimmer, which I really tried hard to misplace. And I'm going to cut a 1-inch piece. So I'm just going to follow the blog directions to make these triangles. I would recommend whatever method you use to make the triangles, whether you're going to follow the blog method or you're going to use my alternative method, you stick with that same method for all of the pieces. The reason for that is then they'll be all consistent in size. My alternative method that I list here with those 1.5-inch squares is just a little bit different in size, like a 1/16 of an inch. But when you're putting all those pieces together, that 1/16 of an inch matters. So if you have some that you've cut via the 1-inch strip versus some that you've cut via the 1.5-inch blocks, they might be a little bit different. So I would say pick a method and stick with that method. I'm going to show you the blog method. And that was starting with a 1-inch strip. And then we have our 45-degree angle line here. So I'm going to put my paper on that 45-degree angle. I do try to follow this that I can see that that black line of that 45-degree angle. I want to be able to see that line. I've lined up here with my cut mark of my cutting mat. And I'll go ahead and slice off this initial triangle. That is scrap. Now, to be able to cut a triangle, I need to flip my paper over. I'm going to just flip it directly over to the back side, line it back up on that 45-degree line. I'm going to push up this corner, this top edge to my cutting line. You want to take a little bit of time to make sure that you get those 45-degree, you're following that 45-degree angle and cut. So there's my first triangle. So this is a repeat. You just keep repeating the same thing to make those triangles. So you just flip it back over and cut. Flip and cut. So you're going to need a total of 7 pieces. If you're using 3 colors, you definitely need 7 pieces. I used 4, and I'm still going to go ahead and cut 7 pieces of each. So you just keep working your way down the strips here. So I was working through this last night. My Diamondbacks were having a very rough game with the Giants, and so I retreated to my scrapbook room while I was listening to them eventually lose. And I was working through all my colors because I wasn't sure which papers I was going to use. I was going to do some graduation photos, and then I realized I didn't have some paper that I wanted. It's coming today. So there's my 7. Nope, there's 6. I need 1 more. So what I ended up doing last night is I'm going to pull a Julia Childs move here real shortly. We'll cut this first set. There's my 7 pieces. I'm going to be like where she, puts that cake batter in the oven and then opens the other oven and then shows you that she has a fully baked cake. So rather than you guys watching me cut a lot of triangles, because it does take a little bit of time. So I know if you're working with me, I have just jumped ahead and you're like, wait, woman, that is not fair. So you can just keep cutting along as I finish putting things together, walk through it. If you are following this on a recording, you might hit pause and just finish making all your triangles. But we've got all the triangles here. I've got 7 of each color. So you need a total of 21 or so of these triangles. I actually have 28. That's going to work out well for me because I'm making a small adjustment in this lower right-hand corner. So if you have 4 papers, go ahead and cut the 7 of each. If you have 5 or 6, you might be able to dial that back. You just want a lot of triangles and have scraps of paper if you need to be able to make more. I can tell you, you do not use up all of the strips making those 7 pieces. You actually will have some left over. So if you need to come back and grab a couple more triangles, or if you're like me and you drop one on the floor, then you roll it over with your rolling chair, that kind of a thing, you'll have some scrap pieces to be able to use. All right, so we've got our triangles here. Now it's time to start thinking about assembly. So for this particular layout, because I did not have just the 3 pieces like they did. They used 3 colors. I had 4. I needed to figure out how I was going to make this work. So what I ended up doing is, I have to remember now, and I should have taken a picture of it. Let's see. Trying to remember how these go on there. Okay, the long edge goes towards the outside. So I think I used 2 colors like this. And I'm going to dry fit these things. I do know that I'm going to have to come down about 1.25 inches is going to be where my inside edge is. That gives me the spacing that I need. That was the other part of doing kind of this dry fit where I can figure out how I want this to go. And you can just see I am just repeating. So along the top edge is the blue, the pumpkin, and the blue and the pumpkin, and the bottom inside edge is going to be the green and the yellow. So when you're doing this, you're just looking for spacing. You're just looking for pattern to make sure that you like how it looks. Now, if I do know for sure that if you use the blog method of making those triangles, you should be able to get the triangles a full 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along that edge. And so that's where I found that coming down, starting at about 1.25 inches from the top, if you place your triangles there, the bottom edge of the triangle, then you'll be able to work those top ones in. And it's going to be the same thing over on this side. So what I've done here is you can see now that I had my green and my yellows on the inside edge, by starting with yellow here, I'm actually going to use my greens on my outside edge, my green and my yellow on the outside edge. And I'll be rotating over here to the blues and the orange on the inside edge. So you'll just want to play around with your patterns, your papers, your triangles. I would love to see one where there's just all sorts of, like, you literally just reached into your scrap pile and started making triangles. And just grab ones that all go with the colors of your layout of your photos. Having a moment where I'm trying to talk. Trying to talk and put together a pattern is obviously not one of my strong suits. So there we go. So that is going to be how the overall pattern. For any of you that are having difficulties with the feed, if you're watching this on Facebook Live, I will be having a recording of this. I am recording it. It will be uploaded to my Facebook or to my YouTube channel. And then Facebook will obviously have the live available for the recording later. So here's my triangle pattern. So you can see the overall idea here is it's all set up there. You can mix and match those triangles. And you can start to see here now that we've got this open area to just kind of play with. This would actually carry really nicely into a 2-page layout. You can imagine just duplicating it and either having your borders all the way around. Imagine a 2-page, or to alternate it. So where you have it up in the upper corner over here, and maybe on the other side, it would be on the lower edge, and they would kind of just give that border effect as such. So now the thing is, I need to start adhering these triangles in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of slide everything off my mat and just kind of keep, I know my pattern, but I'll just keep it in place there. And I'm going to work with the top edge first. These extra triangles, I'm going to save them. I will use those in a minute. And I have to rotate everything because I want to be able to adhere things in place. And I'm going to actually be using my T-square ruler to put my my triangles on. If I'd had that big square piece here, that would give me a nice straight edge to use. I do have a grid pattern to my paper that would help. But if you do not have a grid pattern, if you do not have that 10 5/8 inch square already placed here, you using another ruler, using a T-square ruler is going to be a great option. So I'm going to rotate my paper this direction. This is my top edge, and I'm going to use it along the right side here because I'm right-handed. That's going to allow me to put those. I can line up my T-square ruler at where I want that bottom edge of that paper to be. My first square, which is going to be at, I'm coming in by 1 1/4 inches. So 1 1/4 inch, which is 1 1/4 inch essentially from the top, even though I'm working with it at the side. Sorry, that one of my T-square rulers is a little warped. I think it got set between something, and I need to just take it, I think, outside, let it sit in the sun and flatten out a little. But I wanted to grab my flat T-square ruler. So there I can see, and when I put my pieces in place, it'll be really easy just to butt them up right against that T-square ruler. So, all right, now it's time to start doing some adhering. So I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive. I'm trying to put that adhesive in the corners. The reason is when I go to put this in my page protector, I use top loading pages, but maybe you use those page protectors and you slide them on. You want to make sure that these little triangular flaps are not going to get caught because you got a lot of them. So my first piece I am putting, and I am kind of coming all the way over to the edge. Remember, I've rotated my paper. So this is actually my top edge. This is my inside edge. So I am essentially, in my directions, putting on this yellow piece right here. I've just rotated my layout so that it's easier for me to attach. I'm coming all the way to the edge. You can see in this sketch that it's all the way to the edge. I am using that repositionable adhesive, so if I need to make adjustments, I can. I am not going to be putting on these the blue and the orange yet. I'm going to slide those to the outside edge. I'm going to just be lining up everything along this piece. And that will allow me, I'll fit those other ones in later. So just making sure, giving a little bit of space between the pieces. Could probably just do a quick dry fit. Make sure I want that space, how that spacing looks. We'll just, that should be good. All right. So I'm definitely glad I pre-cut these for you guys because I'd probably still be cutting. It didn't take too long to cut all the triangles, but it's going to take a little bit of time to get that assembly in there. So this weekend was move-in weekend for my son over at Wazoo, which is Washington State University. Go Cougs. Apparently I'm supposed to say that now. Anytime anyone says go Cougs to me, if I'm wearing a Wazoo hoodie or something like that, I have to respond. Otherwise I'm lame, and I can't be a lame cougar mom, right? So it all went well. I will say it was a nice long drive to get over there. It's about 5 hours. Somebody's asking about keeping the T-square ruler in place. There is not really a great way to do that. You might be able to use a little bit of washi tape on here, I suppose, if you wanted to. If this one stays in place pretty well. And actually, I've got those pieces all in there. So once you get those 5 pieces in place, you can pull it away because you don't need it anymore. These top pieces, I don't need to have that T-square ruler. Because now it's just a matter of putting those other pieces in place. I've got the outside edge to act as my guide for lining everything up. So we get over to the college. My son has to go get his keys. I made him do it all by himself. I mean, he's a totally competent individual, but sometimes he's a little funny about that kind of stuff. I was like, nope, you have to go. I'm not going in there with you. And so he did. He went fine. Oh, I did this wrong. That's what I get. I wasn't paying attention. See, I started talking and then I get messed up. I need these. I started with the blue in the corner. This is why we use repositionable adhesive. Make some adjustments here. That's okay. Get these triangles in place. But he got his keys and we went over to his dorm. I was really expecting it to be a little bit crazy and it wasn't too bad at all. We were able to get the little carts that they have to start hauling things up to his room. Get up to his room and we need to get the beds lofted. He has a roommate. So we knew we needed to get Kevin's bed lofted. It was really obvious that things weren't going to fit in that dorm without lofting the beds. So that was a whole debacle trying to get that. We had to wait till his roommate showed up and they were too far behind us. But we definitely could not loft the beds without help. So here you can see I've got those pieces lined up. So now I'm going to rotate my paper one more time. And now it's the same concept. If I do my opposite edge here, I'll line my paper back up and I'm going to find that 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches, making sure my paper is where I want it. And now I need to, because everything over here is all messed up, this green piece right here is actually my bottom piece over here. So I'm going to grab that green one and put it in place towards that outside edge. And now what I'm going to do is just grab all of these, actually, no, it needs to be the orange. This orange piece, because I'm doing orange and blue on the inside edge on this side. So the orange is my there's the orange, blue, orange, blue, and orange. So I'm just going to get my spacing how I want it. And put these in place. So my son is in a dorm at Washington State. It's called Stevenson Complex, and it is one of the older it's not like the oldest dorm on campus. They have some, definitely early, really cool architecture, old school dorms or housing buildings. But my son is in, the quintessential 1960s or early 70s high-rise dormitories. And so we get in there, and I'm sure they have, the furniture is not original to 1960, but it's definitely seen some use. And we're trying to get this bed lofted and get these pieces all taken apart to loft it, and everything's wedged, and there's metal pieces that are bent, and you're trying like just like crazy to bend them back so you can wedge them back into the slats where they need to go. And oh my gosh, we were thankfully it wasn't too hot. It was a little bit warm that day, but not bad at all. And we were just in there like, what in the world? And we got it all put together and realized, we probably needed to make this adjustment. And then I'm looking at him like, nope, you can adjust it later if you want. I am not trying again to wedge everything back in. That was insane. But I think he's happy. He's got it all set up. Get these green pieces the green and yellow now put into place. I mean, once I get this triangle pieces, this is the long part of the layout. Once these are all in place, the rest of it's going to go really quick. So I have a question about where to start the first piece. I'm going to recommend that you start your pieces on your outside corners. You can, and you want to do a dry fit. So you're going to start at your outside edges. They're really quick. Let me just finish putting these pieces in place, and then we'll revisit how to start it again. So you definitely want to do a dry fit. You want to make sure that your pieces are going to fit in there in the right spot. This the last outside piece, there's going to be a half triangle at each end. So there's my half triangle, and I need to do a half triangle over here as well. And then I'll cut those off with a pair of scissors. All right, so let me spin my paper back around to how it's originally set up. So remember, I had to rotate everything so that it would, because I'm right-handed, I needed to be able to line everything up correctly. So when you're starting your layout, I would recommend starting with the full-size pieces that are these outside edges. So you have your top right and your lower left, and then space them. You can also put these corner pieces in place, and you're going to space them so that you can get 5 triangles on the inside edge. You should be able to get 5 complete triangles on this inside edge. And then your remaining triangles should fill in all on the outside. I'm going to trim off that outside edge and then do the same thing on this one, just that half triangle. All right, so now I've got the base part here done. So now it's about getting some of my photos on here. And like I said, I am sticking with the same, everything that was included in the handout. But as you can see here, you have just a blank slate. You can do this however you want with your photos. Mine just happened to work here. Now they have a journal box and they use a title mat. I am actually using photos. So that's the other thing about sketches or blog projects. You're like, oh, I don't want to just use 2 photos. I want to do more. The nice thing about this particular layout is they do have it sized for a 4x6 title. Matt, you could put a 4x6 layout here, or a 4x6 photo. You could use the Peekaboo Pocket and get some more photos on there. So you can make adjustments as you need to, especially with that 4x6. It's always nice when they give us a spot and layout for that 4x6 because we know a Peekaboo Pocket's going to fit there if we need to add 1 or 2 more photos. You could actually add 3 or 4 more if you put a couple Peekaboo Pockets in one spot, or maybe you would have them accordion file out. There's options there, but I had 4 photos, so I'm going to do 4 photos on here. And I followed the measurements. I cut my mat to 4x6 here, and I cut my photo down to the, would have been 3 3/4 wide by 5 3/4 tall. So I've got, here's going to be a photo. Here's a photo. Here's a photo, and I have 1 more. There's a photo. So there's the photos, but I need mats. And I really liked this lighter mint color. So that's the color I'm going to be using. And I'm going to go ahead and stick my pictures on here. It's a thin mat. It's about 1/4 of an inch bigger than the photos, or the photos are 1/4 inch smaller than the mat. You can adjust that if you prefer to see a little bit more of your mat. Sometimes I like a little bit more showing, but the sizing worked well, so I stuck with that, just that 1/4 inch. My photos are 1/4 inch smaller. When that's the direction they give you in the blog. I think I've mentioned before that sometimes I like the 3/8 of an inch smaller, but then we start to get into fractions and weird. It's easier to say 1/4 of an inch smaller. I think it's just quicker for us to do the mental math on there. When I tell you guys make something 3/8 of an inch smaller, it starts to get a little more crazy. So there's those photos. So can kind of see how that's starting to take place there. The next thing that they had in the sketch, and they don't include it in the directions, and I wasn't sure why, but they did have a triangular piece down here. I think they wanted something to anchor the giraffe on. They put that little brown triangle piece in place there. It gave some nice contrast when they put that little leaf behind the triangle. So they show it over here. I did not see it in the directions unless I missed it, but it is a 2.5 inch square that you can cut on the diagonal to get that triangular piece. So you could, you don't have to use it. You can just, do it however you see fit there. I liked that detail, but I was feeling kind of lazy. And honestly, I wasn't sure what color to use. I ran into an issue. I wasn't sure what color to use here. So I had leftover triangles. So what I'm going to do here in the corner is I'm actually going to come in and do a, let's see here. I'm trying to think how I had this. I'm going to do an alternative triangle piece. So you can see I'm using those triangles here in the corner. I had the leftover ones. And then I'll just set this photo right on top. So I'm going to go ahead and put these pieces in place. So that's an option for you. You can mimic some of that same detail over here onto the opposite side. We went to all the effort to cut those triangles. Might as well use them. Granted, I did have extras because I cut a total of 28 instead of just the 21 that was needed, or the roughly 21 that you need for the entire layout. So you may or may not have extra pieces, but you can always cut a few extra triangles. All right. So there is how that's all going to fit together. So then as I was putting this together, I realized I needed some embellishments. So now it's like, what are you going to do? So I have the camera. I mean, he's playing with the camera. So I kind of went with this camera theme. So I went back to the Picture This collection, and there's some, embellishments. I grabbed the Camera Love Punch. I have that one. So I grabbed that. I mounted it onto a circle that I cut. This circle is the is circle number 2, the medium size circle pattern from the custom cutting system with the blue blade. The reason I went with that side is because I'm also using the Love Punch. So I know this one was really hard to get. It didn't last very long with Creative Memories. They had some issues with it. I happen to have one that still works. So I was able to use a Love Punch. You can use any other kind of embellishment cluster. This just worked with my layout. I'm going to use the Love over here in the corner. And I'm going to put this one somewhere. I'm not sure yet because I need to make, I'm going to put a title in here. And my title is going to say, Oh Snap. And I'm using the serif stickers. So I have the black serif stickers from the sticker pack, the alphabet stickers. And what I did is, you may have a Titletopia. I have a very generous customer who's sending me a Titletopia, but I haven't gotten it yet. I checked my mail this morning. It wasn't there. I'm sure it's going to be there probably this afternoon after he delivers for the day. But what I did is I just grabbed my ruler. This is my zero center ruler. And I just put it on the very, very, very edge just to get my spacing. And then what I'll be able to do is come in here and decide where do I want to put it. Right? And then I can just transfer all of my letters. I will use my, here it is, the multi-purpose tool. I'll be using that to get those letters in there. So I'll do that in just a second, but I've got to keep that in mind. So that's what I wanted to point out is I'm keeping that in mind when I'm doing my spacing of my photos. I know I've got a title that I'm going to put right along this edge. So I want to leave space for that. All right, so now it's time to start putting some of these things in place. I'm using repositionable adhesive. You can use regular adhesive to put down. You don't always have to just do a light tap to put things in place if you think you might need to make some adjustments. I'm trying to line up my edges of I'm trying to line up the edges of my photos. I like that kind of clean look that it provides. Those nice clean, the nice clean edges. So I like it when they line up well, especially in a photo, a layout like this where there are a lot of straight lines. I've got those triangles. I've got the grid pattern here in the background paper. So lining up the edges just helps maintain that same style of, I don't know, the feeling, I guess. Double checking that I kind of want my outside edge of this edge of the photo to line up with the All right, so there's kind of everything in place right now. The photos are in place. Now it's just a matter, I'm going to go ahead and put that title on. So when I do this, I'm going to rotate it so that my paper is, because I'm going to use my T-square again to help me put my title on. I'm going to line it up. My title's going to come in at I'm coming down about 2.5 inches. So just making sure I'm at 2.5 inches on both sides. And now the nice thing too is because I'm using my T-square ruler, I can see that I can see the centimeters lined up here real easy. So that's actually going to help me when I put this on here. I want to center it. So it's going to tell me where I'm going to start. Now the big thing here is I could off-center it a little bit. This piece here represents an exclamation point. So, what I want to have my camera now, so imagine I'm going to rotate this back. I have that camera embellishment from the picture, this collection. And then imagine I've got I'm not 100% certain I like this camera embellishment just because I have this style, this cut out here. But I don't know. I do feel like I want that third. This is the hemming and hawing that I do that gets to be a little, I'm going to off-center it a little bit only because I know I'm going to put something there. I'm just not sure what. I might come back in with another, with the camera love punch. Or I might, I have the photography punch. You know, the one that punches the little, it's the BMC that punches those little cameras. I might just punch one of those because it's a little bit, it's the same concept as this one, but it's a little bit smaller, and I can just put a black, or I've got the stickers from the picture of this collection. So I'm going to just, I got that worked out. All right, so 2.5 inches from the top. I'm going to line up my exclamation point at the edge here, at the edge of this top photo. So the exclamation point, I know I need to raise up a little bit because of the pieces. Now I have a P, what's always so lovely because it needs to be down set a little bit. So I'm going to come in. I'm using the reposition or using my multi-purpose tool. And when I stick my letters on, I usually only tap down. You'll see here as I put the A in place. I'm just going to tap down just this bottom edge that's right next to my T-square here. That way, if I need to slide my multi-purpose tool back under the top edge, I can do that. I do not adhere everything into place, like push it down until I'm satisfied. So I'm just adhering that bottom edge next to my T-square ruler. If you don't have a T-square ruler, you can use a regular ruler. I've also used Post-it notes before. I would line up the Post-it notes and then just kind of use that top edge of the Post-it note as my straight line. But the T-square ruler honestly is really awesome. And it just says, oh, snap. All right. I think I need to move down that, there we go, that comma need to come down a little bit more. And now I need to grab my dot for my exclamation point. I still haven't tacked it all into place yet. I could use, somebody commented about using the film strip border maker cartridge. I could do that as well. So what that's going to do is by doing something over here, we'll just put this in place for now. I'm going to use something smaller. You can see that I'm going to have that trio that's going to work as such for that, the trio there. I will probably do a little bit of journaling maybe here at the bottom edge. This is part of a bunch of photos that I have from that photo shoot. So it's, more of just little casual photos. If I wanted to, I could peekaboo pocket this. This is a 4x6 here. If I wanted to have this flip out and have a little bit more journaling or another photo. I don't have any more photos of him playing with the camera, so I don't really have that to add, but there's options there. So overall, I'm really happy with it. I love how this triangle border turned out. I'll get this bottom corner here figured out so that it has that embellishment in place. But hopefully you guys had a chance to put it together. I'd love to see what you guys do. Share it to the Facebook page. If you're in the Ideas and Inspiration group, you can share it there as well. So looking forward to seeing everybody's version. And that's pretty much it for today's Scrapbook Live. Next week, I'm hoping we can do... I thought we were going to have the bonus sketches for the September or the August virtual crop. I thought those would be published on Monday, but they're actually coming next week. So we'll see what those bonus layouts look like, and then we'll see about putting at least one of them together. Sometimes they go kind of quick, and so maybe we'll get to 2, but we'll see. Definitely 1 for sure. I'll have all of that information available on next week. So right now, it's going to be listed when you see the event listing in Facebook as a project to be determined, largely because I just don't know what it's going to be. The week after that is technically the last Wednesday of August. It is the 31st. And what I've determined, and I'm excited about this, I think the last Wednesday of the month we'll do borders. So we'll get a couple of border projects from the blog and we'll put those together because that's a really good time to play with the tools and show you guys how you can look at these border projects on the blog and kind of see beyond the theme that they've given you, like how to adapt it to other tools that you have and how to start to get that of building borders. The great ideas on the blog, but I know sometimes we look at them and they're so specific that it's hard to think past that. It's hard to think, what can I do with the tools that I have? And so we'll start going into that where you can see just looking at there and saying, oh, I could adapt it this way with my tools, with my theme that I need it to work for. So the borders, we'll do that. I think the last Wednesday of every month, we'll set that up to just do 1 or 2 borders and have fun playing with those. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, for watching. I cannot wait to see what you guys create. And I will see you again next week. All right. Everybody have a great Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for watching.